And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hey, if you want to know how you can catch the replays of today's show, we're going to be posting those at Top Star Events and Entertainment on our Facebook page. We upload those videos, so be sure and check those out. And of course, be sure and also reshare this program so you can let folks know that you're watching the Bay Area Houston's premier Talk Time show on air with Pierre. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Leanne Fry. Leanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, Leanne, I want to start off by getting a little bit of your background and how you came to be involved with such a great organization like Bay Area Turning Point.
It is a great organization. I have a background in working with children and families in crisis. I was the executive director in Abilene, Texas for an agency very similar to Bay Area Turning Point called NOAA Project.
Okay.
My oldest son and his wife moved to the coast from Abilene, and they took my granddaughter with them. And then my younger son moved to the coast, and my husband and I looked at each other and said, "Wow, we really miss our kids. And how are we going to do? Go to T-ball and dance and all those things for Kinley?" And we really just took a leap of faith and said, "God, we really want to move and be with our kids." My husband got a job first, and then I wanted to keep working in the movement because I was very heavily involved at the state level with several different committees, and I just felt like I wasn't finished, and so I started looking for another position, and this one came open. I worked with Texas Council on Family Violence on their board of directors, and I connected with them, and I said, "Hey, tell me about Bay Area Turning Point," and they had wonderful things to say, and I applied for the job, and I'm just a firm believer that God is good. And,
so how long ago was this?
It was a year, February 26th.
Wow,
so,
okay.
Yeah, just a year.
So you, are you liking Houston and the Bay Area?
I love it. I don't mind admitting I was a tad bit nervous because Abilene's small.
Right.
And I really thought that there would be this huge, giant city feel. But the Bay Area just has such an intimate, close, small town feel to it. That it's just been such a good fit for me.
We always talk about that sort of kind of in the inside of 610 is what is former Houston, but then you have these very active micro communities. Woodlands, Katy, Sugarland, and Bay Area is definitely one of those that I may be biased here, but I think
probably a little bit.
It's the best. It encompasses so many cities,
it does.
So many communities within those communities. And also in the nonprofit sector, there's a lot of nonprofits.
There are a lot.
Which sometimes that can present some challenges because we definitely want to do everything we can to give back, but there's a lot of nonprofits that good nonprofits,
of course,
and so you guys actually have been around for how long? Bay Area Turning Point?
Almost 28 years.
20 years.
Yeah, 28.
And 28? Wow. So the 30-year anniversary is coming up pretty soon. So if you had to sort of encapsulate what the primary mission of Bay Area Turning Point is, what would that be?
We're a center of care for victims of family violence and sexual assault. We have a residential program where if someone is in danger and they need safe shelter, they can live in our emergency shelter.
Okay.
But we also have a non-residential program, so you can receive any of our services free of charge, whether you live in the shelter or not.
When we talk about, first of all, domestic abuse sometimes tends to be a subject that's difficult to talk about. Whereas when we think about some of the causes, like, when somebody gets sick of cancer or something, you go out there and you do a fundraiser, or you go and you tell your story and you talk about it. Domestic abuse doesn't have that kind of feel. It's a very sort of it's paired sometimes with embarrassment and with shame, which is sad, because the need for people that are involved or being affected by domestic abuse need just as much help.
Absolutely.
What do you believe are some of the things that make the work that you guys do so valuable for our community?
I think you hit on some key things. So historically, it has been a very closed subject.
Sure.
People tend to shy away from it because it's not pretty. It's not a fun thing to talk about. But I think we've made great strides over the last 10 years. The Me Too movement was very powerful for us. Really telling people it's okay to tell your story.
Sure.
And the more we say that, the more we're seeing people come forward and talk about it, and the less shame that there is. I really, if I could remove something, it would be that shame factor.
That shame
because
factor.
Really the person perpetrating the crimes against these people should be the ones feeling shame.
Absolutely.
And not the individual who was impacted.
Absolutely.
So,
and there's another piece, I think, to what you're talking about, which is that sometimes from either the outside or from a person that's not experiencing this, it's easy for us to say, well, why didn't you get out? Or why didn't you say no? Or why didn't you call? Or why didn't you, these kind of why didn't yous that seem so easy at face value, right? But the reality is, and I'm sure you have plenty of stories to back this up, but it's not easy getting out.
It's not.
It's not as easy as just picking up the phone or telling the person committing the crime to stop. And unfortunately, I think from some of the literature that I've read, the rate at which sometimes a person will get out of a situation where there's domestic abuse involved, and years later will fall into the same situation is very, very sad.
It is. So the national statistic is that a person will leave 7 times before they leave for the final time. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So, publicly we say, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But I'll give you a quick story. We worked with
Please.
a woman who just escaped a very, very dangerous situation with her children. And when she came into our care, at some point in time, we were going through legal process, and the judge, even though we had substantial proof that the children had been sexually molested by the father, as well as him sexually molesting the mom, substantial proof, Child Protective Services involved, the judge made the decision that he didn't believe it. And he gave the dad unlimited access to the children, overnight visits with the children. Well, what do you think that mom did? She went back. If it were me, I'm gonna go back because I'm gonna protect my kids. So to us, it looks like, oh, wow, that's a horrible thing that she went back. But they go back for thousands of reasons. They go back because they're threatening to kill the person. They go back because the perpetrator holds the insurance and they have an ill child who needs medical care. They go back because they don't have job skills, because they've been held back and limited from having any job skills. So I mean, you could go on and on. There's thousands of reasons.
And that 100% explains the 7-time statistic.
Absolutely.
Which
one time a woman told me, she said, I just said, so talk to me about, you've left and you've come back and you've come, and she said, every time I leave and come here, I gain a new skill and it makes me stronger. And I go back, and then I come and I gain the next skill until I can leave for the final time. She said, had I left the very first time, I had no job skills. I didn't have a daycare for my children. I didn't have a vehicle. I had no training, and you gave me all of those things in increments. So,
wow, I mean,
powerful.
And I think, I'll tell you, Leanne, I did not know the 7 times rate, and I think that 100% is a story that, or is a statistic that needs. People need to be aware of that
and to understand it.
Do you believe the Me Too movement helped in many ways for folks that the Me Too movement seemed to sort of start around people of high profile, celebrities, but do you believe that impacted positively to the average individual to come out and speak forth and tell their story?
I really do. You know, Harris County over the last year has seen a distinctive rise in instances of family violence. There's probably a couple of factors. Huge events, we see more family violence. So, the fallout from the hurricane creates situations in homes. But I really believe that the public eye on this, and really it's in the news, we're seeing our professional teams, athletics, hold players accountable for their actions. And I really think people are starting to look at that and say, it's okay for me to tell my story.
And a key point to what you just said is, this also relates to, I was actually having a conversation with a colleague, a friend, and we're talking about the bullying epidemic problem. Yeah. And one of the things he said that I found very interesting, he said, one of the things that we sometimes do is focus on building programs and support and things for the person that's being bullied, and we forget to address that there is another human being that's doing the bullying, and that also needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Bullying is one of the biggest precursors to becoming a batterer down the line.
Okay. So do you have do you guys work maybe on the legislative side or from a community perspective to speak up for legislation that holds these people accountable?
Absolutely. So we are members of Texas Council on Family Violence, and through that organization, we're able to help set the legislative agenda. I served on the committee that helped set the legislative agenda for this year.
Okay.
And it's really exciting things, tightening up some things around protective orders,
Sure.
Having some things in place when someone is a victim and they're everything falls apart and they're in an apartment lease. How do they get out of that apartment lease without paying a penalty?
Sure.
There's so many barriers for family violence, and that's another reason why don't they just leave? Well, I'm in an apartment lease for a year. How do I get out of that?
Right.
So legislative pieces are really key to that, and we're very actively involved in that process.
So it sounds like there's still some room, or
There is.
quite a lot of room
There
for
is.
improvement on the infrastructure, the systems that could be put in
Yes,
place
absolutely.
to help have that accountability, and also help on the other side of the fence to somebody that wants to get out. That there's not those getting out of a lease, is a great
Stuff you
example
don't think
of that.
about.
Absolutely,
You
but
don't
it
think
but it 100% influences your decision to leave or not to leave.
Absolutely.
So raising funds for your organization is obviously an important piece, and you have an event that's coming up.
We do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So April 4th, we have our Dogs and Divas style show. And that style show really highlights just one of many programs that we have.
Okay.
But what we find is when people are fleeing a dangerous situation, there are all kinds of factors. So they want to make sure that they're somewhere safe for their children, but they also want to make sure that they're somewhere safe for their pets. Most shelters don't accept pets.
Wow.
And through our Safe Paws program, we've partnered with different people in the community that will foster someone's pet while they stay in the shelter with us.
Okay.
The instances of abuse against animals it's staggering.
Sure.
And a lot of times a batterer will say, if you leave, I will kill your pet or I will harm your pet. Or they've already abused the pet, and the person knows if I leave and I don't have anywhere for my pet, it's going to die.
Wow.
So this program, through Community Connections, allows the pets to have somewhere to go. So our Dogs and Divas style show just highlights that one program. It's a serious subject, but it's a really good time, the Dogs and Divas style show. We have raffle tickets available. We have a silent auction. We've got some really fun surprises this year that I'm not going to tell you about.
That means you're going to have to attend the event so that you can get that information.
Yes.
Leanne, if people want to purchase tickets, how can they do that?
They can go to our website.
Okay.
At the Bay Area Turning Point website.
Okay.
And there's a link on there, and you just buy your tickets that way.
And then you guys also have a Facebook page.
We do.
That we want to ask our viewers to be sure and get connected with,
please.
Bay Area Turning Point. Leanne, any closing comments? We sincerely appreciate the work that you're doing, and we know how important it is to the community that your services are part of the community. And anything else that you'd like to add?
There's easy ways for anyone to help us. We have a resale shop. You can donate to the Bay Area Turning Point resale shop. It's on Egret Bay.
Okay.
Our clients get to get clothing and household goods there free of charge, and then we sell the additional items, and that goes to our operations. We need volunteers. We really are in the process where we are actively looking for new board members to be on the board of directors. Every month we put out our top 10 or 15 things that we need. It's always on our Facebook page and on our website. So it's things like toilet paper, paper towels, macaroni and cheese, things like that. So look for ways to help us. Look for ways to connect.
If you want to get involved, this is a great organization to support. Once again, their Dogs and Diva events takes place on April the 4th, and that again, one of our sponsors, one of our partners, and so be sure and get connected with the Dogs and Diva event. It's going to be a fun event with raffles and some surprises that Leanne won't tell us. But
No, you have
all
to
that
come.
means is you have to go to the event so you can get more information. Leanne, I want to thank you so much
Thank
for
you
spending
for
some
having
time
me.
talking with us. And we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, Miss Whitney Lane is going to close out the show with some music. She is the winner of the Don't Mess with Texas Song Search Program for 2019. Stay tuned and don't move. We'll be right back. Hello, my friends. You and I have a date at 11 o'clock every single Wednesday, so you can tune in and watch my show, On Air with Pierre, where I interview local celebrities and the movers and shakers of the Bay Area, Houston. So be sure and tune in to On Air with Pierre, Wednesdays at 11 o'clock.